So first up, the Newsom epiphany. Newsom panics at recall and he opens the economy. So Gavin Newsom naturally wants to open the economy now that there's a possibility that he is going to be recalled. I actually think there's a really good chance he's going to be recalled. And so how does that work and what is up with this recall? So Cal Matters is an online magazine that comes out that we subscribe to. And they talk about recalling a California governor explained. So I want to read this real quickly before we go into some clips from Newsom and others. Recall Gavin Newsom signs are popping up all around California at shopping centers, at street protests. People fed up with the Democratic governor are asking voters to sign petitions. What begins as a far-fetched effort by Republican activists has turned into a credible campaign attempting to throw Newsom out of office. It's hard to fathom in this deep blue state where Newsom clobbered his 2018 GOP opponent and, according to polls, remains popular with a strong majority of voters. But the coronavirus pandemic shifted California's political landscape into two significant ways. It prompted a judge to give recall supporters more time to collect signatures. Sounds familiar, like the elections last year, keeping their campaign alive long enough to gain momentum. And it led Newsom to enact a slew of new restrictions to curb the spread of the virus that have frustrated some Californians and energized recall backers. Here's the key part. The recall petition doesn't say a word about the pandemic. It was written before the virus even upended normal life. But it gained a surge of signatures after the news broke in November that a maskless Newsom joined lobbyists for dinner at the posh French Laundry restaurant, even though he was telling Californians to mask up and avoid socializing. And so the article goes on, but as you can imagine, the point is that ever since Newsom did exactly the opposite of what he told his Californian citizens to do, that's when the actual recall effort just took off. I mean, it's just crazy. So now my understanding is you need 1.5 million signatures, and they have 1.1 million signatures. So we have some lead-up clips on this. And first here's Newsom. He's asked the question in his most recent press conference about the recall effort and about the fact that he just lifted the lockdown and is opening up the economy. They ask him, hey, governor, what about the lockdown and future governors and, what about the science of lockdowns? Talk about that, because apparently just like yesterday, the science was we need to lock down. But today, now that the recall effort apparently is really gaining steam and the people who are running it have until mid-March to get to 1.5 million signatures. They already have 1.1 million signatures and it's gaining momentum. Apparently you're opening up the economy. So talk about the science, please. We have that clip and here it is.
God forbid we go back to large rock concerts, et cetera, too early, or frankly, 5-6 months ago in the midst of this pandemic when we didn't necessarily have capacity and we didn't understand the complexities of potential variants moving in and didn't necessarily have adequate PPE or ICU capacity, that we were holding large events with tens of thousands of people. Some folks, and it sounds like the folks that you exampled, support that. And respectfully, the doctors, the experts from Dr. Fauci on down, the overwhelming majority, it's like climate science. There's 2 or 3% that disagree, and you see them on certain networks, and then the rest of folks that acknowledge certain common sense as it relates to mitigation, the transmission of this pandemic.
Oh, yes. So good old Newsom, his desire and his decision, I should say, to open the economy from the lockdown that's been in place, it seems, forever in California. And he's opening it up because, of course, he's being recalled. His decision is science. It's about the science, because we have people that are denying the science, like climate change science, like climate science. Can you believe this? And so why is he using climate science as an example of how he's using science and Dr. Fauci to keep the economy locked down, but suddenly has decided to open it because of the recall effort? Well, that's pretty simple. It's pretty simple because of the simple fact that for good old Gavin Newsom, He knows that his time in office is not much longer, but he has to divide the people of California by saying, those Republicans, they deny climate science. So therefore, they're denying the science, I should say, of the lockdowns and of COVID. So that way, when Newsom is Newsom is in full campaign mode now, right? He's in full campaign mode because he knows he could be recalled. So the best way to divide the state is to say those darn Republicans have never really believed the science of climate change. And they also don't believe the science of COVID. So therefore, you shouldn't vote for them. You should vote for me. Well, herein lies the problem, podcast listeners, because with Gavin Newsom, his own people in his state, Democrats and independents alike, they're saying, open the darn economy, open it up. I mean, it's not just Republicans who are signing this recall effort. Obviously, hundreds of thousands of Democrats and independents are signing it as well because they want the economy open because people are suffering by not being able to go out and live like human beings are supposed to live. So we also have Stuart Varney from Fox News. He's from the Fox Business Desk. And he asks, what about the data that is supposed to justify the lockdowns? And he asks a guest, and it's a great question because the central question of the Gavin Newsom recall campaign is, hey, yesterday you were closed down, today suddenly you're open. It was supposed to be a really long, dark winter. What happened with the recall effort? Is that the reason, or is it really science? So here's Stuart Varney, and we have a clip on that, and here it is.
The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has lifted some restrictions in some parts of the state, but he's still refusing to release the state's COVID data that he used to justify the lockdowns. Tom Del Boccaro is with us this morning. Why won't he release the data?
Well, it depends on who you believe, and we don't know what we don't know about that data. But many believe it is because the data doesn't back up the lockdown. Remember, there was a Los Angeles Superior Court case where the judge says, show me the data on why outdoor dining adds to it. The state admitted it didn't have it. So with that kind of admission, we believe they don't have the data for the lockdown.
So they don't have the data, or they're hiding the data. Either way, that's really a bad look because you shut down one of the world's largest economies, the state of California, over the fact that you either don't have the data or you don't want to share the data. Either way, that's not a good look for a recall effort for Gavin Newsom to get at least reelected, and the recall could very well be successful. And so naturally, this is going to be at the center of the campaign, as Gavin Newsom says. You can see it, how he's dividing this. Well, it's because Republicans are against climate change. And they're like, well, we're not really running on this issue. We're running on the lockdowns. No, but you're against climate change and science. Okay, well, show us the science, Gavin Newsom. Well, I'm not going to show you that. I've been talking about it for 10 months to talk to you about that. Why should I show it to you? So here's Stuart Varney again. He says, well, how does the recall effort work in California? We somewhat explained that at the beginning of the segment, but you know what? It's better to hear it sometimes online because California is a unique place. And we have that explanation, and here it is on a clip.
Well, interestingly enough, the state is going to verify the signatures. Suddenly, California is going to care about whether the signatures were valid. We expect it. We're going to reach, our goal is 1.9 for cushion. And then we expect a statewide election in August where there's just 2 questions on the ballot. Should Newsom be recalled? And the second question among the list below, who should replace him? And the thing about this is you don't have to reach 50%. Whoever gets the most votes from that list, and there were 132 candidates in 2003 in the recall, wins. So someone could win with about 25% of the vote.
So you only need 1.5 million signatures for a recall, but the recall effort is actually working on getting 1.9 million signatures because apparently in California, especially with Newsom, now that he's in charge, they want to really verify the signatures this time on the recall effort, but they don't actually verify the signatures at all when they're ballot harvesting during regular elections in California. Oh no, they don't verify those signatures at all because they allow ballot harvesting. So since they allow ballot harvesting, why check the signatures? It's not necessary because it's going to be bad for Republicans. It's going to go very badly for them in regular general elections. But on a recall effort, suddenly signature verification is very important. So the Republican effort to recall Gavin Newsom in California is going to require 1.9 million signatures, just kind of a big cushion to make sure that when Gavin and his people try to verify signatures, they can do everything they can to throw out as many of these signatures and as many of these quote unquote ballots as they can. Boy, what a complete hypocrite without question. And that's Newsom panics at recall and opens the economy.